Hi there, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Life in Motion. I'm your host, Grace Becker, and I am so excited to have you all here with me today. So, for today's drink that I'm having, it is kombucha. A little ASMR for all of you baddies out there. This one is the Island Paradise of the Synergy one. Ooh, I was feeling bold and branched out a little bit. So I got the Island Paradise and I think it's called Trilogy. It's their Trilogy one. And both are really good. I think the Island Paradise is probably my favorite one, my preferred kombucha of all of them. Of the two, but they're both really, really good, and I was happy, like, branching out. Kombucha sometimes is hard for me to branch out to different flavors, because once I taste one that I really like, I tend to latch onto it, which I think is so different, because I don't do that with a lot of other things, like with other drinks or with food. I don't know why, but I think it's just because kombucha is like already an acquired taste. So when you get the different flavors in there, I think it can sometimes trip me up. But yeah, how is everyone doing this Thursday? As I'm recording this, it's Sunday. I usually record on Sundays. And I just got done with a walk outside, and then I went to the gym and I did some chest and tries, like the gym bros, chest and tries, you know. But it feels good to get out on a Sunday, you know. There's just something about it that it's like, yeah, like even on like Sunday, on the resting day, I got out and I did stuff, whatever. Gosh, I hate myself. That sounds so gross. But I am proud of myself though for getting out. I told myself this episode should be coming out this coming Thursday. So it was just Memorial Day weekend. So we had an extra long weekend, which, oh my gosh, I needed a 4-day weekend so bad. There's just so much going on, but I also needed a weekend to take care of myself because I've definitely, with everything going on, been neglecting my own self. And so I was like, girl, we need a self-care weekend. We need to get in the gym. We need to get groceries. We need to finally make some recipes with our sourdough discard. I hopped on the sourdough train, everybody. It is hard. My editor, Ben, was saying, he's like, yeah, I hear it's like adopting a child. Oh my goodness, it is. And I also don't know if I'm doing it wrong or if I'm just need to be more patient, because I've been following this one content creator. Her name's Emily. I don't know her last name, but she makes a lot of sourdough. I've been following her sourdough starter kind of guideline. And I mean, I think it's been going fairly well. I'm on day 10 now though, and I don't think it's ready. I was gonna do a float test today. If you don't know what this is, like a sourdough, some of you are probably like, I don't even know what she's talking about. But a float test is, I guess, you put a little dollop of the starter in a thing of water, and if it floats, it's ready to be baked with. If it doesn't float, then she needs more time. And I was gonna do my float test today to see if she's ready, but mine does not look anything like what Emily's looked like on this day. So I'm a little anxious. I know one of my coworkers has a sourdough starter. She bought a dehydrated starter. I didn't know you could do that. I'm like, shit, save myself the work and and whatever. But she did say I could have some of her starter if mine like plops as like a plan B. So, but I'm really excited to bake a bunch of bread. I love baking. I love cooking and I love baking, but I probably have the love language with baking more just because I do have a sweet tooth. Unfortunately, she does me dirty sometimes, but I do have a sweet tooth and I love to bake. So I'm excited to get that going and make different loaves and make ones with inclusions. Oh my gosh, I'm going to be making some s'mores sourdough bread. I'm going to be making jalapeno cheddar. I saw one for pesto and mozzarella. My coworker has made some and brought it to work. She's made some of these as well. And there's so many inclusion types. You can make a croissant one. You could do double chocolate espresso. Like, are you shitting me? That sounds amazing. That sounds fucking amazing. So I'm really excited to get into that and to actually start making the bread. So far, it's just been a waiting game trying to get the starter going. But yeah, so that's what's been new in my life. I hope you are all having a nice day and that you also enjoy your Memorial Day weekend, whether you were celebrating it with family, if you have any loved ones who've passed that you went to go visit. I hope that you had a good time and that you got what you needed and connected with people. If not, if you didn't see family, if you were just at home, I hope that whatever you needed, whether it was rest or you needed to be productive and get some other stuff done, like whatever the case may be, I hope you got what you needed. So, what day is it? I'm recording this on a Sunday. So on May 13th, it was over a week ago now, but on May 13th, I celebrated my 1 year as a fully licensed therapist. Woo! Clap, 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 clap. But in honor of my 12 months as a licensed therapist, I wanted to share one thing for every month to mark this milestone that I have learned from my time as a therapist. And it was really hard to narrow it down to just 12 things because honestly, there's so much, and I could have done like 24 things, right? But I'm not going to do that to me or to you guys. So I have 12 different things to talk about. And I've been a licensed therapist. I'm licensed in North Dakota and Minnesota, and I've been practicing for a year with my license. It's been more than that if you count like my internship and practicum and all that, but really loved being a therapist. I love what I do. I love where I work. I love my coworkers. If any of you are listening, hey, I hope you're enjoying the episode and just know I appreciate you. And I am also so thankful for everyone who has helped me get to where I am too, because I find it to be a huge privilege that I get to do this kind of work and I get to share it not only with my clients, but then I also have my podcast. I have you guys, and I can come and continue to spread, whatever people are needing. And I just feel really grateful and privileged to be able to do that. So thank you to everyone. You know who you are. If you're listening to this, you have helped me. Like, just because you're a listener, you've helped me get to where I am. So I'm very grateful for everyone who has been a part of this journey with me. So, all right, now that we've gotten all of our dues out, so to speak, let's get into it. The first thing that I have is things did not get this way overnight, so they are not going to solve themselves overnight either. Consistency is key. So I put this one as the first one right away because I so often will be talking with people, clients, friends, family, whoever, and we sometimes get frustrated with ourselves when we aren't able to see like the results right away, right? We live in a perfect world where we want everything here, we want it now. So in this like fast, quick result pace, we can sometimes become frustrated with ourselves when we're not getting those results right away. And I always tell people that, these issues, they didn't come up overnight, right? Like you didn't just like wake up one morning and suddenly you have depression. Usually it's something that has progressed like throughout time. You know what I mean? If we want to get technical, we can get into the DSM. I can break that sucker out. Or whether it's like financial problems too. Usually that's not something that just occurs overnight. Those are like issues that have developed over time. And so when we have these issues that develop over time, we have to give ourselves some patience and some guidance and some grace to allow them to also fix themselves. And I also use the word fix loosely because some issues like can't be fixed, can't be cured, right? And depending whatever's going on, like it can take time to get to that point. And that is why I also put that consistency is key. I often tell my clients that when, they come to see me for at most 1 hour once a week, right? That's probably the most the person's coming to see me. That 1 hour a week is not going to do much. You know what I mean? Sure, it's helpful. It's good to come into therapy to talk about whatever issues are going on, get some coping skills, getting a new perspective, making decisions, trying to process trauma, doing all the good work, right? So I'm not saying therapy's not helpful and that there's no purpose to therapy. There is a purpose to therapy, and therapy is so great. Recommend it to everyone. What I'm trying to say is that if you are expecting all of your quote unquote problems to be solved in that 1 hour in your session, that's not going to happen. You have to be consistently doing it yourself, doing the work that you've learned in therapy in the real world, because that is when you're going to see the progress. You don't go to the gym and go do like lift some weights for an hour, expect to walk out like all beefed up, do ya? If you do, then we gotta adjust some expectations. But it's the same here, right? Like you go to the gym, and if you're consistent, if you're going often and you're doing all the things you need to be doing, getting the nutrients you need, the movement and all the good stuff, right? Then that's when you will see your results. But it takes time, and there takes consistency. So consistency is key, and also things didn't get this way overnight, so they're not going to solve themselves overnight either. Okay, number 2. So this one is things change around you when things change inside of you. And I put this one because so many times when I've worked with families, when I have worked with couples, individuals, whatever the case is, often I have heard, oh, well, if only like my kids would listen to me and they would do the things I'm asking them to do. Or if only my partner, if my spouse would try and hear me out on my perspective, like they're being so stubborn, like if they would change, things would be so much better. Or people will be talking about just like circumstances in their life, right? If my work would change, if the work environment would change, if my parents would change, if my friend would change, if all these other factors outside of myself would change, things would be so much better for me. And the hard thing with that is that we cannot control other people, right? We cannot control what people do, what people say. And because we can't control them, sometimes that can lead to feeling frustration, right? Because I agree, it would definitely help our mental health if people and factors and our environments around us were also positive and productive, right? And if it's not just us putting in all the work, I totally understand that. And as much as I understand it, does not change the fact that we cannot control certain factors. Certain things we can control, right? Like we can set boundaries with people. We can, state our feelings. We can state the facts. We can give our fair requests and all those good things, right? Because those are things that we have control over. We can control ourselves. We can control the things we do, the things we say, the way we react, and all of those lovely things. And the reason I love this one is because I often tell people that when things change inside of you, aka once you learn how to effectively communicate, once you learn how to regulate your emotions, once you learn how to cope with, traumatic or disturbing events, all these beautiful things, right, that life loves to throw at us. Once you learn how to control the things that you can, you will notice that things around you start to change as well. The universe, the people, whatever you want to call it, in our life, it tends to reciprocate back. And I don't necessarily mean like, oh, if you start asking your coworker how their day is going, they're going to start asking you how your day is going. Yes, that does happen. And yes, like that is pretty common, right? If you learn how to effectively communicate and you're doing that to your parent or your spouse or whoever, often they will reciprocate that back through some work of their own as well. Because, if you never learned how to properly communicate, or to regulate your emotions, whatever the case may be, it's going to be more challenging. And I also mean that once you work on the things inside of you, such as setting boundaries, you will notice things around you are also starting to change for the better. Because if you learn how to, in this example of setting boundaries, learn how to tell work no when they ask you to take on this project, or you learn to cut off that toxic, situationship, or you finally drop that one friend that wasn't really a friend, they weren't checking in with you and seeing how you were doing. Once you can do those things, you will notice like, oh my God, like things around me are changing. I don't have these toxic people around me. I'm not overworked. I'm not overwhelmed. All these things are having us just go over the top, right? So that is number 2. When things change inside of you, things change around you. And it's very, very true. And it's kind of one of those, I don't know if any of you have ever gone on a weight loss journey or like trying to like build muscle or anything like that. But I know I have. And one of the things I would often see when I was researching like diet and exercise movements and like the mindset and all that stuff is the infamous, not infamous, but just the famous of like, you will notice a difference in the first 2 weeks, and then other people will notice in 2 months, and then you'll have like a lifestyle change in 2 years. I don't know if any of you have ever seen stuff like that, but honestly, like, that is true. And the same applies to this, right? You will probably be the first person to notice the change. Then other people will notice the change. And then eventually it's just going to become habit for you. And you're doing it without even really recognizing or having to really concentrate and focus on using those skills, right? It'll just become verbatim for you. Okay, number 3, you do not have to be perfect to be loved. Whether it was something from your past, like your relationship with your parents or your caregiver, or it was a past relationship, or maybe it's the relationship you have with yourself and your own self-worth and self-esteem. There are people out here who believe that they have to do something in order to be loved, that they have to be perfect in order to be loved by someone. But I'm here to burst your bubble, because if your goal is to be perfect and then finally someone will love you, that is an unrealistic goal, and it's not going to happen. Because you are human, you are therefore have built-in imperfections. And that's what makes us, beautiful and unique, right? And that's kind of can take a pressure off, I guess, is how I feel about it. It takes pressure off of me knowing that, you know what, Grace, you're not perfect. And sometimes you're going to mess up and you're going to make a mistake. How you go about that mistake says a lot more about a person's character. And I also am able to know that, you know what, I don't have to be perfect. I don't have to tiptoe around a person in order to receive their love. And if you feel that you have to be tiptoeing, walking on eggshells around somebody, or giving them a certain output in order to receive their care and affection, might want to look into some resources, look at your relationship as a whole, because that is toxic and that can be abusive and manipulative and gaslighting and all of these words. And it's not okay, because you deserve someone to love you for who you are, imperfections included. And that doesn't mean that you have the right to, go like talk crap to somebody, whether it's a partner, family, friend, whatever. This is not just intimate relationships, but it doesn't excuse you from, oh, well, I'm imperfect, might as well just like be an asshole or say what's on my mind. No, you still have to like talk effectively, right? Communicate effectively and all these things, and be respectful as you can. And also understand you're not always going to be able to do that, and that's okay. And a person who truly does love and care for you is going to be there for you through those times when you are imperfect. So that was number 3. You do not have to be perfect to be loved. Number 4, feelings are not facts, although sometimes they really do feel like it, right? And to go with this one, right? I think back to things that I've personally gone through, like feeling really depressed, feeling anxious, trauma, and feeling in the moment hopeless, or feeling overwhelmed and out of control, and different things like that, feeling lost and confused. And although it's hard to see at that exact moment when you are going through those emotions, just know that just because you are feeling hopeless does not mean that things are hopeless. Just because you're feeling lost and confused doesn't mean that you're not going to find your way. You absolutely can. And my encouragement is to not get so hung up on the feelings of it and making our feelings feel like facts, because they're not facts. Your feelings are valid. You're entitled to your feelings, and just because they are your feelings, like just that, because they are your feelings, they are valid. You are allowed to feel hopeless. You are allowed to feel depressed, anxious, angry, whatever the case may be. Your feelings are valid, but they are not facts. And it does not always excuse your actions, right? Because those are not always valid. And so remembering too that, just because you may be feeling this way in this moment, with, like we were saying the first one, things don't get this way overnight. They're not going to solve themselves overnight. With consistency and actually working on your issues, it'll start to feel like less and less of a burden. if that makes sense. So that's number 4. There's another point down here that kind of speaks on that a little bit more, or that goes with it, that pairs with it really well. And we'll talk about that more. But that was number 4. Feelings are not facts. Number 5, listen to understand, not to respond. Oh my goodness. I have some people that I would like to dedicate this one to. No, I'm just kidding. I do. I really do have people I want to be like, I was thinking of you when I was writing this one. But I'm not going to name any names. We're not going to name drop around here. We don't do that unless it's good things. Because why take up the energy to spread hate, right? When you could spread positivity and kindness. But listen to understand, not to respond. And I feel very passionately about this one, not only from my personal life, but just I see a lot of people, I've worked with a lot of people who struggle with this, right? We all have our own perspective on a situation. And we are entitled to share this perspective as long as we are, again, we want to try and do it in a non-judgmental way that avoids attacking another person. Because if we do that, then the other person gets defensive. And defensive people are lousy listeners, so they're not going to listen to your perspective. And you're just going to become really more frustrated and you're going to attack them more. And then they're getting defensive and they have their own perspective. So they're probably going to attack you back. And then you're getting defensive and then you're not listening to them. And we just have 2 people out here who are just like clashing, who are not meshing because they're listening to respond, not to understand. Think about it. Next time you're having a conversation with somebody, I encourage you to take a moment to be mindful and ask yourself, okay, as this person is talking, am I just listening to respond? And you'll know if you're listening to respond because you want to ask yourself, or you'll notice within your thoughts, you're probably thinking about what you want to say next to that person. As they are speaking, you're probably like, oh yeah, like that reminds me of this that I had, or, oh yeah, I had a question about that. You know what I'm saying? Like you're not actively listening to that person. Listening to understand is a much different approach. And listening to understand is always going to be a more productive way of communicating and helping another person to feel validated, helping another person to feel heard. And there's always going to be a chance for you to share your perspective as well, right? Both sides can share their perspective and still be heard and understood, right? You can accept something, you don't have to agree with it, but you can accept it, right? And if you are wanting that other person to understand you and hear you out from your perspective, if you give them that, they're likely to reciprocate it back for you, right? Like we come back to this reciprocity thing. So how do you actually listen to understand? My 3 favorite ways to do that are validating, mirroring, and empathizing. So let's start with mirroring, okay? So mirroring, gosh, tongue twister, is essentially summarizing what the other person said. So if I were to come to you and I was telling you, yeah, my cat I had to take him to the ER. He swallowed a piece of rubber. True story. And it was really scary. And I thought that like he might not make it because he's already had multiple surgeries. And our surgeon told us last time that he probably wasn't going to make it through another one. And I just like, it was really scary and anxiety inducing and horrible to go through thinking that I could have lost my pet, my little fur baby. And I say that to you. A good way to practice mirroring is to summarize back what I'm saying. Oh, I hear what you're saying. You're saying that you're feeling scared and overwhelmed because you had to bring your cat to the ER, to the emergency vet, and you had to get him to induce vomiting. And if he didn't do that, then he probably would have had to go into surgery and possibly not make it out alive from that surgery. Like, it makes sense that you're upset, right? So mirroring is basically summarizing what the other person said. And the reason I love that one and how it's used to listening to understand is because it gives me, because I was sharing my perspective to you, and if you were mirroring back to me, it gives me the opportunity to clarify to you if you missed anything or if you misunderstood anything, right? So I can be like, oh, no, not quite like that. Actually, I was feeling, more depressed and gloomy than I was anxious and sad, right? To clarify anything. And that can just foster, right? Like help avoid to have later miscommunication, later arguments. And it fosters that feeling validated, that feeling heard, right? When the person mirrors back to you, because you're like, oh yeah, holy shit, you were actually listening to me. You were listening to understand, not to respond, right? Another way to do that is with validating. So validating goes to say, well, it makes sense that you would be feeling anxious because I know how much you love your cat, and this has happened before, and I can only imagine how like anxiety inducing that would make you feel, right? So validating goes to say, it makes sense that you feel blank, however that person's feeling, because ... right? So basically you're validating, oh, it makes sense that you feel that way, or it makes sense that you reacted that way, or it makes sense that you're having this thought because ... And then you lay out the situation, and then you can even mirror then, right? You can use these in combination, absolutely. And that's what validating is. And I love that one again, because it makes a person feel respected, makes them feel validated and heard and appreciated, right? I just want to be appreciated. Please tell me someone out there got that one. That was a reference to a vine, I think. And the last one, empathy. Empathy is, and sometimes people get this one confused with sympathy. Sympathy is feeling for somebody, almost like pity, and empathy is feeling with somebody. So how to empathize with me giving that, situation I laid out for you with my cat. You could say, I imagine you are feeling sad. I imagine you are feeling confused. I imagine you are feeling numb. I imagine you are feeling blank. I imagine you are feeling whatever, because I know how much you love your cat. And this one also gives the other person an opportunity to clarify, right? If you were to say that to me and you said, oh, I imagine you must be feeling upset with yourself because, like he ate rubber and you weren't there to catch it. Then I could clarify and be like, well, no, I'm not upset with myself. I couldn't control that. I wasn't in the room when he did that. I am, however, like feeling depressed or sad or anxious, right? So it also offers another opportunity to clarify. So those are 3 things to keep in mind in order to listen, to understand, not to respond. Mirroring, validating, and empathy. 3 things. Okay, number 6. Our minds can sometimes convince us things are worse than they actually are. Ooh. So this one is going back kind of to the number 4, the feelings are not facts one, because now we're getting into our thoughts. And our thoughts sometimes are valid, sometimes are not, because we do sometimes have irrational thoughts. Remember that episode I did on distorted thinking types? Sometimes this is where they can creep in, right? Or we're overthinking, we're catastrophizing, we're getting into those should, shouldn't statements, black or white thinking. I don't remember if I said that one. Probably did. There's all sorts of different distorted thinking types, right? And our minds sometimes play freaking, I don't know why now I'm being all like censored, fucking. Our minds can play fucking tricks on us. And it's not fair. And it happens, right? And when that happens, when our minds are playing these tricks on us, trying to convince us that this irrational thought we're having is reality, that's when we just gotta acknowledge it, right? And this takes practice again, practice and consistency. When we're having a thought, and I'm just going to use the example of catastrophizing or overthinking, because that's a pretty common one for people, when we kind of imagine the worst scenario happening, or we go into every little detail of every little thing of how this could come out and how it could play out. When we're doing that, one of the best things we can do to counteract it is to just acknowledge it, just to start, right? Like, whoa, Grace, like that was a hella irrational thought. That was probably catastrophizing right there. Like, put a name to it. Call yourself out. Speak the words out loud. Because when you do that, you're putting the name to it, right? And you're acknowledging it. And it's just gonna be much more effective versus if you just thought in your head, like, oh shit, like that was really irrational. I probably shouldn't have thought that, right? Like, that's not gonna be very powerful, right? So what we wanna do is just call it out. Say it for what it is. And then, if we need to, like, take a deep breath, do some grounding exercise, depending, sometimes when we're feeling overwhelmed, that can almost lead to a panic attack state for some. Getting those clammy hands, getting these racing thoughts, ruminating, and our hearts start racing. So take a deep breath, do some grounding exercises if needed. And if you want to, talk to somebody around you, sit down, do whatever you need to take care of yourself. And then we want to reframe the thought. So then we would tell ourselves, okay, that was the irrational thought, rather than thinking, oh, I forgot to pay my bill and my doctor must hate me and must not want to see me ever again as a patient. Like, I totally fucked up. They just must be so mad at me. I can never show my face there ever again. When we're having those irrational thoughts, recognize it, calm down if you need to, like take a moment for ourselves, and then reframe the thought. So two or more things can exist at the same time. So you can both be feeling frustrated or upset with yourself for missing to pay the bill, right? So I could say, I am frustrated. I would have preferred if I had paid the bill on time. And this is probably not the first time, probably will not be the last time they've had to encounter this with the patient. What I can do, what I can control, is I can call them. I can call my doctor's office and I can tell them hey, I'm sorry I missed this payment. It's a day late. Is there any fees for this? What can I do? Can I pay it online with you? Or can I pay it over the phone with you or online? Right? Then go into what you can control. Because when we get stuck in our thoughts, a lot of times we're having these irrational thoughts over things that we have no control over. Things that are in the future, all the what ifs. We have no idea how certain things are going to play out. Recognize the thought. Calm yourself down. Realize, okay, that was irrational. These are things I can't control. But here are things that I can do. Here are things I can control. Okay, so that was number 6. Our minds can sometimes convince us things are worse than they actually are. Number 7. People are doing the best that they can. Sometimes I have to remind myself of this one. Mostly when I think I've gotten better at it, but when I was first a therapist, my first few months, and honestly, sometimes I do still struggle with it. Who am I kidding? I get frustrated, not necessarily with the other person, but almost with myself, like a client. If I'm working really hard to try and help them process, help them cope, help them with their communication, individual, couples, families, whatever the case is, right? I will get frustrated if the client seems to be struggling to understand a concept, or if it's taking them, they're just not getting it. They're still, attacking each other with their words or whatever. Not because I'm upset with them, but because I get upset with myself. And I'm like, whoa, am I not a good therapist? Am I doing something wrong? If they're not at this point where they can, where they've learned something, right? And I have to recognize, people are doing the best that they can. I truly believe that at any given moment, most people, not everyone, but most people are doing the best that they can with the experiences they've had, with their knowledge that they have, with their mood, with their feelings, with whatever that they have going on for themselves. I truly do believe that if the best that person can do that day is show up to my office and just be there and just coexist with me, that is what they need, and that is what's going to be helpful for them. If I have days where a client shows up and they are super talkative, they're talking to me about all these things that are going on in their life, and I'm able to give them a skill and they use it in the session and then they use it in reality, and then they come back to me and they're like, oh my God, I used the skill. And I'm like, oh my God, I used the skill. Then I believe that that's them doing the best that they can. And it's not linear. Some days I have one person who is that second person I described, right, where they can do all the things. And then the other day they're just there. They're just present, right? So there's no pressure. Show up however you can, because I personally know, and I hope that we can all recognize that people are doing the best that they can, truly. Okay, number 8. Self-care is more than face masks and bubble baths. It is setting boundaries, talking with friends and family, journaling, physical movement, taking a shower, paying bills, making appointments, and so much more. I put this one because self-care gets this preconceived idea that it is a luxurious, glamorous thing, like going to the spa, taking a bubble bath, doing a face mask, drinking a glass of wine, watching our favorite show. Like, yes, that is self-care. Absolutely, 100%. And I am a stan for drinking your drinkity drink, watching your show, doing whatever you gotta do, taking that bubble bath. Like, I am here for that. And that, yes, that is self-care. And there's so much more to self-care than just those things. Self-care, like I said, it is setting boundaries with friends, with family, with work. It is talking it out with someone if you need to talk with someone. Whether there's something heavy weighing on you, or you just want to be around people and you just want to chat with them. There doesn't always have to be a pending issue going on to talk to your therapist, to talk to a friend, to talk to a family member. Sometimes what our soul needs is we just need to connect, because humans are designed to crave connection with other humans. And sometimes that's what we need, is just to connect with a person. Sometimes self-care is journaling, writing out your thoughts, writing out your feelings, writing out a experience that you had, good or bad. Sometimes it's physical movement, just getting some like movement in there, right? Like how I was saying this weekend, my Memorial weekend, I really needed some self-care. And my self-care this weekend looked like going to the gym, getting outside, getting some vitamin D, getting fresh air, groceries, packing. I've been packing up my place for my move. Going through all my clothes, like there's things I just don't wear anymore that don't fit, like getting rid of those. Self-care can be as simple as that. It doesn't have to be this orchestrated, glamorous thing. It can be very simple. It can be taking a shower, paying your bills, making those doctor's appointments. There's so many ways that you can get into self-care. And if you want to know more about that, my coworker, Christy, and I, she's been a therapist for over 20 plus years, and she's amazing. She's so cool. I wish she could be my therapist, which she kind of is, but she's really great. And her and I did an episode on boundaries and self-care. I think it was episode 2 or 3. I think it was episode 3. Her and I did an episode on that. So really good. Definitely go check that out if you want to know more and talk more about self-care. Okay, number 9, compassion fatigue is real, so take care of yourself and don't feel guilty for it. This one goes out to all my perfectionists and all of my people pleasers. I see you. People pleasers, see people pleasers. Compassion fatigue, oh my gosh. Whether you are just a naturally caring, giving person, or if you are in a job where you have to give, being a parent, a stay-at-home parent, being a medical worker, like working as a nurse, as a doctor, surgeon, being a therapist, being a social worker, being a teacher, being what are they called that ride in the ambulance? EMT. Whatever it is you do, like, it doesn't have to necessarily be your job. It can be just like, maybe you have just especially been giving and helping others through things. Compassion fatigue happens, people. It's real. And you are allowed to fill your cup for a change. If you have been giving to other people and your cup is depleted, and if you continue to try and give, you are going to get burnt out so quick, so fast, I promise, to the point where you could end up resenting that person that you were helping, where you could end up resenting your work, where you could end up resenting just like a lot of things and become kind of negative, right? Compassion fatigue is so real, and it is important to take care of ourselves, because when we take care of ourselves, not only are we able to better take care of others in the future and be there for them, but we're also setting an example for other people in our life, for the people that we're helping, for our kids, for our friends, for our family, for our partner or spouse, whatever. We are showing them like, hey, I need to do this for myself and I don't feel guilty for it. When we do that, we're also telling them, sending them the message of, yeah, you can do it too. right? So sometimes it can be helpful to think of it in that way. If your kid or your parent or your partner was coming to you depleted and overwhelmed and drained, would you say, no, you have to sit there and continue to give and give and give? Or would you be like, hell yeah, go take care of yourself, girl? Like, you deserve it. Not, you don't deserve it. Like, you just, you get it because there doesn't have to be a reason. You just do. So that's number 9. Compassion fatigue is real. So take care of yourself and do not feel guilty for it. Period. Okay. Number 10. We're getting down there, guys. Healing can take months, years, and even a lifetime. So this one kind of also relates with the first one. You know, things didn't get this way overnight, so they're not going to solve themselves overnight either. And I guess I put this one as its own separate one in a way, because I will have people who come into my office and they recognize, okay, like this is going to take time, and they do the work, they do it in therapy, they do it outside of therapy. But then after they've been doing it for maybe a few months, they're like, okay, I've noticed changes, but I'm not where I thought I would be, right? They set an expectation for themselves on where they thought they would be. And it's not that they haven't, enjoyed therapy, enjoyed the process. They usually do. It's just they get hard on themselves and they're like, I've been doing this for 2 months. I kind of thought I would be at this point by now. Well, we need to give ourselves some patience and some grace, because healing is not a universal thing and there's no time limit on it. For one person, coping with grief and the loss of somebody can take them maybe a month. For another person, maybe it takes them a year. It just depends for people, and there's no time limit, and it's not a linear thing, right? Sometimes you can make a lot of improvement, but then fall back a little bit and make a little improvement and then fall back a lot of it. And then, you know what I'm saying? It's not linear. And healing, it can take months. It can take years. And for some people, it takes their whole life of going to therapy, of talking with others, of sharing their emotions and using skills. It's a lifelong effort. And healing, there's no universal timeline. So that is number 10. Healing can take months, years, and even a lifetime for some people. Number 11. When things feel overwhelming, I find it best to take a breath and focus on what you can control. I've used that word a few times in today's episode, control. And the reason I put this as a number 11 is because I know that this is one that hits home with me a lot. I can get easily overwhelmed with people's needs, with my needs, with tasks I have to complete, and I will get on myself if I'm not like, go, 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 if everything's not perfect sometimes, or if I have this preconceived idea of how things are gonna go and then they don't go that way, all sorts of scenarios. And it causes me to get overwhelmed. And when I am getting that way, this is what I do. I take a breath. I do a coping skill. My favorite is box breathing. I think I've talked about it before, but I'll share it again since I think it's been a minute. It is when you take a deep, slow 4-second inhale. You hold it for 4 slow seconds, that breath. Then you exhale slowly for 4 seconds. And then you breathe as normal for 4 seconds. And then you do that 4 times. And you can like draw a little box on your arm. You can draw it on your leg. You don't have to draw anything at all. But it just really helps me personally to calm myself. And then when I'm calm, I can think more clearly. I can proceed more mindfully. And then when I've done that, I focus on what I can and can't control, right? Well, not focus on what I can't control, but I just recognize it. I just put a name to it. I'm like, you know what, Grace? We cannot control the weather, but what we can do is we can plan around it. We can plan, okay, it's going to be rainy today. Maybe let's do the picnic tomorrow, and today we'll go get the supplies and we'll have like a movie night. Or we can still have our picnic, but we just can't have it outside. We can have it in the house, and we can make ourselves a little charcuterie board movie night inside the house, you know? There are things that are going to be out of our control, and although they can, yes, be overwhelming, and you're allowed to have that feeling, if we hyperfixate on it, it can become damaging to our thoughts and our feelings and our mental health. So then that is when it's helpful to take a breath and then proceed mindfully with the things that you can control. So that was number 11. Last one, everybody. Oh my gosh. Oh. This one kind of gives me like the goosebumps a little bit. Number 12 is everything you want is on the other side of fear. I love that one, but I also am a little intimidated by it because fear is a great motivator. It motivates us to do something, or it motivates us to not do something, because whatever we're afraid of that could happen, or whatever situation, or, certain circumstances, or if how someone might feel about us, think about us, those things can definitely have a toll on a person, right? We will literally go out of our way to avoid something, or go out of our way to do something just to stay in our safe zone. And I am telling you, I know I said in here everything you want. Okay, that might be a little bit of a dramatic flair on that, because sometimes we don't get everything we want. But the things that you want, or the things that you are so afraid of, on the other end of that is so much opportunity that you are closing yourself off to because of your fear. And sometimes, I'm not gonna lie, like, people have legitimate fears, right? Like, if you have someone in your life who is maybe an abuser, and you're afraid of leaving them because of they will hurt you, your kids, or they financially support you, and you don't want to, like, have no means, nowhere to live, all these things. Those are legitimate fears, right? So we can be smart about it. We don't have to just, like, face our fears and go confront our abuser. Like, we can do some research. What are some resources in the community? Can I go see this one shelter and ask them for my options during a visit while my abuser's away, and then make a plan to get out of the house, right? So you can definitely go about it in a strategic way, especially if the thing that you're afraid of could cause harm to you. Definitely get help. And also, there's a lot of other types of fear that are just holding us back. Fear of rejection, fear of abandonment, fear of failure, fear of whatever it is. And it holds us back from amazing experiences and opportunities. And if you can just step a little outside of your comfort zone, just a little bit, just a little baby step. And then after you take that little baby step, another little baby step, right? You will see that there's so much amazing opportunities waiting for you. So that is number 12. Everything you want is on the other side of fear. Guys and gals, theys and thems, I hope you enjoyed this episode of 12 things I have learned in my 1 year of being a therapist. Yay! I am so grateful for all of you listeners, and I hope that you have a wonderful weekend. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave it a like, leave it a review, share with people in your life. Shout out to my editor, Ben. Thank you for all that you do. If any of you want to get a hold of me, my email is life.motion24@gmail.com. My Instagram is life.in.motion24. TikTok is life_in_motion24. It'll be down in the show notes below, so you can check that as well. I upload every Thursday, so make sure to stay tuned in to hear all about life in motion. And until next week, embrace the chaos and find the beauty. Bye!